AVH. And then, unfortunately for him, he did not participate. I mean, somehow he didn't visit the laboratory. But by the time he came back, he got back to the university, at the Obafemi University, with some papers published. And then he was being prepared to be put up for promotion. Somehow information got back to his host in Germany. And his host wondered how he got those papers published. He later realized that he cooked those data and sent them to publishing house or houses. They were published. Immediately, his host realized that, wrote back to the university, Obafemi University management, and mentioned to them that this guy never visited, or maybe visited for a while and then went elsewhere. And he wondered how he got those data upon which he had published those results. Eventually, he was sent packing. So data analysis, or anything that has to do with data for in science and engineering or technology, or even in social sciences and other aspects of academy, data plays a major role. So I want to present to you this afternoon that kindly be very, very honest and be humble to handle data issues, because upon the outcome of your data analysis, data acquired and analyzed, inferences will be made, lives will be transformed, even yourself will be transformed, and the entire mankind rather will be transformed, yet unborn will be transformed. So I thank the Academy for bringing this topic at this point in time. And I would also pray that, because we may not have enough time to do justice to this, that maybe some other academic is brought up at some other time to discuss this. I'm also very glad listening to the president of our academy mentioning that this interaction should not be too formal. So you can stop me in between. I have prepared a slide, a presentation of about 21 slides. I may not be able to touch each of the slides, so maybe I'll jump back and forth.
Okay.
But
sorry,
one
sir,
thing.
we understand.
Hello?
We understand, sir.
So one thing I have to say, I'm sorry I'm presenting at home, and then you may pick comments. My kids, I'm trying to put them on that chair.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about that.
Okay.
So you can interject, and then we have the talk. So my agenda is as presented. I'm going to do an introduction, tell you briefly what data analysis is about, data structure type, the process involving data analysis, the techniques, the tools, the applications of data analysis, a few of them, and then some common flaws, and then we'll wrap it up. I want to tell you that, I'd love to tell you that my own aspects, my aspect of data analysis is more of science and engineering. Although I have some exposure to social sciences, so I'll try as much as possible to balance the presentation with examples I give. Okay, now let's go straight. What is data analysis? Data analysis is a process of gleaning useful information. Please let's mark gleaning, meaning that obtaining useful information from data sets, maybe one, it may be several, for purpose of decision making. Now, I want to emphasize data sets. In the last 10, 15 years, I discovered that a number of researches conducted by some of my postgraduate students have been obtained online. And then some of these sources are not reputable. So I want to encourage young academics to look towards building data sets. Let's create researches that include in the objective building data sets. You can gather your own data sets, archive it, and make it available online. All of this, the technologies required for this is not too far from us. So what I'm trying to say is that data analysis is a process. It's a very long process, but it has a start point and an end point. But the main essence is to glean useful information. Now, this useful information has impact on the data analyst himself, his generation to come, for decision making. That is the essence. Next slide. Now, because data analysis has to do with data, and I'm from the computer science and engineering background. So data is very important to us. Now, what is this data? Data, from simple definition, means some raw facts that have been obtained for obtaining information. Now, when data is analyzed, some information is obtained. Now, different data structures, which researchers of all kinds will have to come in contact with. First and foremost, I have on my list here, big data. What is big data? Big data is a concept that recently we came about. Big data is a chunk of data, and it is described by its volume. We say high volume of data, high velocity, meaning that the data keeps coming at high speed. You can't stop it. And then it's of high variety, structured, unstructured, semi-structured, and all of that. You have numerics, you've got alphanumerics, you've got memos, you've got images. All these are data. And then big data provides us a basis, a platform upon which all of this can be put together and operated upon. Now, the second kind of data that I have here is data structure is real-time data. I tell you, in engineering, real-time data cannot be pushed aside, because real-time data simply means that the data that is being generated at real time and must be captured and processed and archived at real time. Otherwise, vital data points will be missed. An example of that is weather data, for example. The weather or the climate of an environment, the data keeps coming by the microsecond, not even second, not even minute, and then you want to capture it and utilize it. We have metadata. Metadata are data that are provided to describe other data. I have an image here to describe metadata. For example, I have this table with, I hope you can see my mouse. I'm trying to move around my mouse here. The table here has 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. Now, the caption to each column is a data. And this is the sort of data we refer to as metadata. That is data that describes other forms of data. So I move my slide to the next one. We have machine data, data produced solely by machines. For those working maybe in physical sciences, engineering, technology, it's not impossible that they'll have to work with machines, and these machines provide data. For example, you may have the speed of a gear, and then the data that is provided from such a machine will be the angular velocity, the torque, and a whole lot of others. So machines provide this data, and such data must be analyzed. So meaning that you don't have to capture it yourself, but the machine captures it and then makes it available. Now, these last two data structures, I'm sure some of our colleagues, my listeners who are from the social sciences or humanities, will be more at home with these ones, are qualitative data. qualitative data that structured. Oh, okay, no, I'm sorry, I mixed that. That should be quantitative data. I'm sorry. So let me quickly fix that. So this is qualitative, and this is quantitative. Yeah. So quantitative data, structured, you find them in rows and columns, and then qualitative and unstructured, you don't find them in rows and columns. They are images, they are sound, audio files, text messages, memos, and all of that. These are all forms of data that must be analyzed. I'm quite happy if we have any of my listeners who are from the social sciences, you would agree with me that focus group discussions, for example, will generate qualitative data, and then questionnaires administered to some extent will generate quantitative data. Now, what are the various data analysis process? Please, moderator, let me know when I have 5 minutes left so I can. I may not have enough time.
Sir, you talk exactly, you have 5 minutes. Sir.
Wow. Okay, that's fine. So we have quite a number of the processes involved. You must define your data. You must define the premises upon which data should be generated. So I described as a problem statement. What is the problem area? Then there has to be a strategy to collect data, not just collect or aggregate, because data will come in various forms. They must be properly aggregated. Then the next is you want to clean the data. It's time consuming, no doubt. Cleaning is very major. It's one of the key aspects of data processing. Data or data analysis, it must be clean. You must remove error, duplicate, outliers. You must make sure that unwanted data are not encouraged, fix typo as a result of entry, fill in gaps. Thereafter, the data is analyzed. There are quite a number. We're going to do spend some time on analysis. There are quite a number of approaches to that. You want to do descriptive. Description, you want to present the short summary. You want to do some diagnostics. Focus on the understanding why something has happened. Perhaps you're interested in predictive. You want to identify future trend based on the data you have acquired, or prescriptive, which allows you to make recommendations for the future. And the last step is that data must be, the outcome of data processing must be visualized. You must make it available in such a way that is attractive. And there are quite a number of tools, and not just make it available in visual form, it must be shared. Okay, so quite a number of techniques, data analysis techniques. I want to say here that there are a number of them, but what determines what technique you employ is what I have expressed in this simple mathematics here. I'm sorry, I'm from that perspective model. So I say that the choice of your technique is a function of the question you set, the data type you intend to work with, and then the volume of the data. So this will determine what technique to employ. And then what will be the target of the technique employed? You want to gather, you want to aggregate, you want to clean, and then you want to mine insight, yes, information. Afterwards, you want to dig deep into the insight to transform facts and figures for decision making. I want to tell you that the essence of data analysis is to inform decision making. And that's why the process behind the process for generating this useful information must be of high standard as much as possible. Okay, so I have in there techniques, some of the techniques I have listed here are techniques based on mathematics and statistics. I have techniques based on artificial intelligence and machine learning, and then techniques for visualization. Is my time up?
Yeah, sir, you have 2 minutes. Yes, sir.
Thank you for being generous with your time. All right. Okay, so techniques, mathematical techniques and statistical technique includes the following: descriptive. It's a first level analysis. Simply frequency, mean, just summarize the data, quantitative data. The next is dispersion analysis. That is, you want to find out the standard deviation. Maybe I won't group data together. You want to find out how spread, what is the spread of the data? Range, what is the range, the quantile range? Then the third one here is regression analysis. This is a little more interesting, where it builds relationship between dependent variable and independent variable. You may have more than one independent variable. So you want to see how does one variable influence the other variable. It assesses the strength of relationships. So regression analysis builds relationship between real variables, and it also provides the opportunity to do trend, to project into the future. There are a number of versions or more variations of regression analysis, linear, non-linear, and a whole lot of that. Factor analysis. So it's also a statistical technique, which basically what it does is that it's what we call that dimension reduction. If you have a huge bunch of data or variables, and then you want to find out which of these ones are most important, then you want to do factor analysis. You want to, an example of this analysis is principal factor, common factor, image factoring for those in computer science, and then maximum likelihood. For example, during my PhD, I made use of a maximum likelihood in MATLAB. It was very useful for me to in processing my data. Discriminant analysis. It's also a form of a classification and all of that. So let me just move on. I know my time is fast spent. Yes. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, very, very key. Artificial neural networks. This is an approach where the computer is made to mimic human brain and then use in processing information. One strength of this is that it accepts noisy data. So if you think that your data is going to be noisy, and then you intend to obtain some form of classification and forecasting, you may want to consider artificial neural network to analyze your data. It's going to give you some very, very reliable data information in terms of a trend analysis, in terms of another form of technique. Another technique here is decision tree. Decision tree is.
So can we quickly add 2 minutes again?
2 minutes. Okay. Let me just. Okay, thank you. Evolutionary programming, fuzzy logic. Techniques based on visualization and graphs. I mean, so these are very common techniques: column, bars, this for representing your data, line charts, area, pie charts, word cloud. Now, this word cloud is a technique I recently discovered. I use it in writing. I'm sure the presenter who is going to give us talk on a systemic review would mention word cloud. This is a very, very useful technique. It's based on artificial intelligence, where the computer assists you through some program algorithm to mine key information, keywords from a whole bunch of text. Very, very useful. Please note that in your paper writing, review writing. Gantt charts, scattered plots, maps, well, quite a number of tools: Excel, Tableau, R, Python, SAS. Application of data analysis cuts across a number of fields: transportation, risk detection, customers in business, in healthcare, in IT, and all of that. Now, what are some of the common flaws? Then I end with this. Common flaws include: 1, bias sample. Make sure your sample is not biased. And for your samples not to be biased, there are statistical techniques that must be ensured you must ensure that your data is subjected to. It will tell you that the data is bad. One experience I have had with my students is that data is obtained and students just go ahead to run this data. I tell you, there are standard statistical techniques that data should be subjected to ensure that there are no biases. And when your data is too small, there are standard statistical approaches that data can be subjected to expand the data. There are some techniques known as extrapolation. You can extrapolate it and such that you have enough data to work with. Because when you have too small data, the decisions that you will make may not be as reliable as expected. Now, goals and objective must be clearly defined. I told you it's one of the processes. You must define your problem. Your goals and objective must be clearly defined. Confusing relation and correlation and causation. Now, if you look at this object here, between the variables A, B, amongst variable A, B, and C, there are correlations and there are causations. Causation simply means that the variable A leads to variable B, but variable C leads to variable A and variable C leads to variable B. But there is a correlation, or as a result, there's a correlation between variable A and B. So that must not be confused, causation and correlation. Okay, as I conclude, using wrong benchmark. Benchmark simply means performance. What are the performance techniques, indices? Presenting results without adequate context. And lastly, using unreliable data. Do not use unreliable data. What leads to reliable data? Missing or duplicate data. Make sure your data is clean. And when there are missing gaps, provide them as much as possible. Abnormal or incorrect values, check through. Please don't be in a hurry. Spend quality time to clean your data, because lives and future lives will depend on your the insights and information you want to bring out of this. Data is second-hand or out of date. Check your data. Make sure it is not second-hand. Make sure it is first-hand. And as much as the data is not out of date. If you have out-of-date data, make sure that the data is updated, because if you work on out-of-date data, then there's a problem. So thank you very much. I thank the organizers. I thank my participants, my listeners, for the opportunity to share my knowledge and experience on data analysis. Thank you. I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much, Prof. We are sorry that we have to rush you to.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Have a very limited time. Thank you very much. I will also like to remind the participant that if you have any questions, we'll have a question and answer section when all the presentations have been made. So, Prof, thank you once again.
It's my pleasure, sir.
Okay. So now we are moving to the second presentation. So can you maybe
release the...
Yes.
I've done that.
Thank you, sir. We are now moving to the second panelist. The speaker is Professor Obinna Inwi. He's a professor of microbiology at the Covenant University in Nigeria. For the past 20 years, he has been working in the area of environmental microbiology and public health. He is involved in teaching and supervision at both undergrad and postgrad levels at the Covenant University. Among the positions he served he was a resource person to the National Universities Commission, NUC. He was a former acting dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, and also associated dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, and deputy director, Research and Development at the Covenant University. He has several awards. To mention some few, in 2021, he was the second prize winner for the National PIN RDC Institutional Award in Nigeria. He was a winner of the Professor Oyewale Tomori National Prize for Young Scientists in Microbiology in 2015. He was a Fulbright Fellowship Award, Honorary Citizen of the Great State of Nebraska, awarded by the Governor of the Nebraska, United States. He published several articles in accredited peer-reviewed scientific journals. He is a member and a fellow of several professional bodies, such as the Institute of Public Analysts of Nigeria, IPAN, the Nigerian Institute of Food Science and Technology, NIFT, and lastly, he is a fellow of our great academy, Nigerian Young Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present or allow Professor Obinna Inwi to make his presentation. Sir, you are most welcome.
Thank you so much.
You have the floor, 15 minutes, sir.
Okay, please can I share my slides?
Okay, Osigale.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me to present this to our wonderful colleagues. Just by the side, I was wondering, is it not the scholars in NOA should be talking to the professors? Because most of us had our degrees when there was a transition from analog to digital. So many things have happened in the space. Thank you so much. So I'll be talking about the use of reference managers, and this is my contact. First of all, I have just 10 slides, so I'll be kind of interrogating some of the things I've presented, then throwing lights on it. I have just 10 slides, so I'm sure within 15 minutes I should be done. So first of all, we'll look at this my outline of presentation, which is definition of a reference manager, then sources of reference manager, types of reference managers, the features of some listed types of reference manager, the pros and cons of it. For example, I know most of us started, like I was trying to explain, we are in a digital space and so many things have happened. I remember when I was making presentations back then in University of Lagos, we used cardboard to put up our presentations, but now so many things have transited. We've left that cardboard stage now to use of projectors and smart boards. This will tell you the age where we actually exist as scientists. So it's paramount to every scientist to know the age and time we live in, which is a digital space where we have artificial intelligence, 3D printing, almost all forms of new technologies are scattering. I call it a disruptive stage. We live in a disruptive stage. So many things have changed. So coming to reference managers, I remember there was a time we used index cards to put catalogs of things. I remember an event that happened in the US, the few places I used to buy books. After a while, I went back, I found out there are no books. E-books came on board, scattered the entire thing. Likewise, some of the way we handle our references. When we write papers, so many things we use pen and paper to maybe you put numbers to check what you had in your text is the same at the reference section. Those things have changed. Now we have some artificial intelligence that help us to handle those things. So like I said, reference managers are softwares that allow for digitalization of personal collection of relevant scholarly publication. Whenever we want to write papers, we normally download and read through publications. Now, these reference managers help us to catalog it so that you can write it based on the way your journal you want to push your article prefers those your write-up to be in. So these reference managers help us a lot to handle that task. I said the earliest program to manage the basic stacks of storing references and adding them to manuscripts has been around for over 25 years, including Endnote. Like some of us started experiencing Endnote in the 2010, but it has been there for over 25 years mostly in the developed world. So reference managers can be defined as or referred to as citation or bibliographic manager, or is a database that helps us to build and create lists of articles and books and reports. And it's a type of software that allow academics, authors to create local libraries that can subsequently organize, classify, and reference when writing. RM or reference managers are commonly plugged in to researchers' word editing software or web browsers. Such RMs automatically construct bibliographic structures to the specific specifications of a journal or style manual that you want to write. So what is the importance of reference managers? To a researcher, a reference manager supports researchers in performing three basic research steps. First, in searching, storing, and writing. It helps researchers find the relevant literature that allows them to store the papers and their bibliographic metadata in personal database for later retrieval, and allows researchers to insert citations and references in a chosen citation style when writing the text. So you find out whenever you're writing a paper, for example, some of us have the Endnote softwares. So automatically it gets on your, what do you call your Word document. It enables you to, whenever you see a journal of interest, you can download it and store it as a library in that Endnote, for instance. Then whenever you're writing, you can select a column. Maybe if you want to write it in, I would say, upper style, you find out it helps you to select the style you want to write. When you're writing your text, once you click the reference, it helps you to store the right referencing format at your reference section, which makes it easier for researchers whenever they are doing things, writing papers. So reference managers should have the following functionalities. One, it should be able to import citations from bibliographic databases and websites. It should be able to help you to gather metadata from PDF files. Professor Oyedeji has mentioned about the types of data that we handle so large, but as a scientist, this will help you to organize the data you have, and you will be able to use it as expected. It allows organization of citations within reference manager database, allows annotations of citations, and allows sharing of reference managers database and portions thereof with other colleagues, and also allow interchange with other reference managers products through standard metadata formats. And it can work with word processing software to facilitate in-text citation. So sources of reference managers, we have, depending on the sophistication of the software articulation with various search engines, authors use proprietary search services to find sources such as from your local library affiliation, like Web of Science or WordCat, free online search tools like Google Scholar, the social collaboration network for researchers such as Mendeley, Web Zotero as part of things that help you to develop your references, as the case may. So what are the types of reference managers that are there? I'm sure there are other ones that are coming on board, but within the period I did my few research, these are some of the ones I have, and I'm sure there are several that are coming up. We have Mendeley, we have Endnote, we have Zotero, we have easybib.com, we have Skywheel, PaperPie, RefWorks. These are some of the ones I've listed, and I've tried to look at some of their importance in terms of availability, word compatibility, the way whether it captures papers from PDF documents or websites, the citation or bibliographic, and sharing collaboration. If you look at this, which these slides, I will be making it available to Dr. Kintayo and NY in case you want to look at that. So if you look at availability, you find out that RefWork is web-based and is free via university subscription. Some of the universities subscribe to that and you have it freely available for all the researchers. We have Endnote. There are free downloads on desktop, on your Mac or iPad. We have Endnote Online, which is the web-based and it's free. We have Zotero, is web browser extension and desktop and mobile app free. And we have Mendeley with web, desktop, and mobile free. So these are some of the free ones that are there. And you find out that in terms of sharing and collaboration, you can share a reference with groups. You can share reference with groups in almost all of them. So what are the pros and cons of some of these? Some of them, it can handle large citations, for example, the RefWorks, and Endnote copes with very large library. And Zotero uses tools for creating reference from websites, and Mendeley is mostly for social networking. And these are the cons. Some of them have limited offline access, and some of them are not compatible based on the type of software. For example, Endnote is not compatible with Linux, those who use Linux. Then Zotero has about, you have limited free storage, about space of 300 MB. And some of them can, for example, sync of desktop application of web account, not automatic if you're using Mendeley, and is limited in terms of free storage. So these are some of the pros and cons about this. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to our wonderful family. I'm free to answer some questions, but I'm sure most of us are aware of all these things I've presented. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Nui, for this enlightened presentation.
Yeah.
I would also like to, I can see some questions are coming up. Please, you can send your questions at the Q&A section. We'll be there too, and the profs will answer the question at the Q&A section. So let me quickly, Prof, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So let me quickly go to the third panelist or speaker. She is Dr. Foloke Olayinka Onuobana. Is a prop associate professor in the Department of English, Redeemers University, Ede, Osun State. She obtained her BA in English language from Obafemi Awolowo University in 2004. The master's and PhD degrees were in University of Ibadan in 2007 and 2012, respectively. She is also involved in teaching and supervision of both undergrad and postgrad students. Her area of research is in corpus linguistic study of different discourse pragmatic features of diverse varieties of English. She was a recipient of a research fellowship on the Münster, Germany from 20 at the Stellenbosch Institute for Advanced Study, South Africa in 2021. Together with colleagues, she recently compiled a 1,000,000-word historic corpus of English in Nigeria from 1960 to 1999, sponsored by Redeemers University. She has over 50 research articles, many of which are indexed in ISI and Scopus. She is also a fellow of our academy, that is Nigerian Young Academy. Dr. Foloke Olayinka Onuobana, she's going to present on the topic conducting systematic literature search and review. Ma, you are most welcome. You have the floor.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed.
Okay.
Good afternoon, distinguished professors and colleagues. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me to give this presentation. So I'll first of all like to share my slide now. All right. Okay. Maybe I should go for. All right. Thank you very much. I hope we can see my slides now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I'm looking at conducting systematic literature search and review. I just have about maybe 9 or 10 slides.
Okay.
So I will say it's an informal interaction. So I would informally talk about the topic before us today. Okay, so we're looking at systematic literature search and systematic literature review. But of course, before we can look at systematic literature search and so on, we need to understand what literature means. Of course, I know that we are academics, but perhaps we have some young people amongst us who would need to, get clarifications on a number of things. So I would briefly define literature as a body of previous studies, mostly published on a particular subject. So when we talk about literature, you're dealing with research articles, books, chapters, conference proceedings. They could also involve student projects, particularly PhD and possibly MA thesis, research reports, magazines and newspaper articles, and sometimes articles that have been accepted for publication. In some cases, there could even be papers that are still undergoing review or manuscripts in preparation, depending on who the author is. Usually where you have very established authors in a particular field, it's possible for them to refer to manuscripts that are in preparation. And I'm saying this based on what we have, at least in the humanities. So I don't know how it looks like in the sciences, but it's possible. But then, of course, literature should mostly be published materials. Now, for us to talk about search and review, we need to understand the relevance. We need to understand why we need to, review, search and review relevant literature. Firstly, we need literature in order to establish what is known in a specific area. So if you want to carry out a particular research in a particular area, you need to read previous, research on that particular subject. That will determine whether you should carry out that research work or not. Of course, we also need to make use of the literature in order to identify a gap in knowledge. Like I said, the essence is to know whether we should carry out a research work. So if there is no gap in knowledge in a particular field, then there's no need to go ahead with that research. But with the literature review, you'll be able to identify a gap, and it is that identification that would help you to carry out your own research. Again, you use the literature to establish the statement of the problem, the research problem. Without the research problem, there is no need to carry out a research, to carry out a research work. So in order for us to establish what is known in a specific area, identify the gap in knowledge, all these are related, we need to involve ourselves in thorough literature search and review. Again, like I said, we have students among us possibly, and I'm giving some of this, they might look simple, but I'm referring to some of the issues I have here because I've had opportunities to read students, apart from student thesis. There are some cases where students, particularly maybe PhD students, want to, write a paper. And then when you look at what they have as their literature review or the location of the literature review, you know that there is a problem. All right. So in student theses and monographs, the literature review is usually found in the chapter 2, particularly when you have a thesis. So usually having in the literature, you have the literature review in chapter 2. In research articles, the literature review is usually a part of the introduction, which helps us in establishing the gap in knowledge, the research problem, and that will help you to know your aim and objectives. So usually it's a part of the introduction in a research article. In some cases, especially in the humanities and social sciences, depending on the area of research, the kind of topic you're dealing with, it might take up a section in a research article, usually in the humanities and social sciences. You may not have this in the sciences, but in the humanities and in the humanities and in social sciences, the literature review may take up a section of its own in a paper. So usually, depending on the kind of item you're dealing with, you would have the literature review, in those locations. Okay, so now I'm bringing up this image here of the literature review in a research article. Like I said, students usually don't have problems when they are writing their literature review to some extent in their thesis. But when they want to convert their thesis to a paper, when they want to bring out papers from their research, from their thesis, they tend to run into some problems. And I think it's partly because in some universities or in some places, students are not taught article writing. They are taught how to write a thesis. Usually you have a book on how to, the project, the thesis style, and which element should be, which item should be in one chapter and so on. So we're really well educated on how to write a thesis. But when it comes to writing a research article, in some places, students are not well taught. So when they are asked to bring out a paper from their thesis, they run into problems. I'm saying this again because of my experience when maybe we are editing a book or some journals, particularly in Nigeria, send you some articles to read, and then you see this problem there. Even in some cases, some people write abroad, and then in impact factor journals, for example, and by the time it's sent to you, see that there is an issue with the literature review section. So I'm presenting this to show that there's a difference between writing a literature review in a research article, the difference between writing a literature review in a research article, from what you have in a thesis. So usually, of course, in a literature review, particularly in the humanities, you can spend, in a thesis, you would probably write a whole paragraph on a particular text that you're reviewing. But in a research article, you do not have the luxury of time. You don't have the luxury of space, rather, to do that. And so you need to get the main highlights of each of the items that you are reviewing. You have to, of course, zero in on the ones that are most relevant to what you're doing. So you pick the ones, like I said, most relevant, pick the items, and then look for gaps in those articles. And then with that, with the identification of the gaps, maybe in the research questions or methodology or the type of data, you'll then be able to write, bring out the statement of the problem, and then that will lead you to your aim and objectives. Okay, so now we're talking about systematic literature search, and I'm happy that the previous speakers have referred to, especially the one on reference, managers, and we've been taught how to search for materials using, reference managers, how to store, items, how to, make use of those managers to reference or cite a work appropriately, especially when you're dealing with different journals. So when we're talking about systematic literature search, we're talking about physical or digital search of previous works on a subject. And it could be, like I said, could be physical because it could mean visiting a university library or someone's personal library. In some cases, you might have to go and see someone, to get certain materials from the person. So you have physical search. At the same time, you have, the digital search of previous work. And this, of course, is a lot easier. You don't have to go anywhere. You're just in front of your laptop. You're on Google. You're on ResearchGate, academia.edu, and so on, looking for different materials. Of course, it's, you know, we have different kinds of restrictions here in Nigeria. Some people are lucky to have access to journals outside Nigeria, or maybe access to, you know, database where they could have different kinds of materials, particularly research articles in subscription-based journals online. You know, here in Nigeria, not everyone has that. In fact, most of our students don't have access. When you tell this person, oh, you have to pay to get access, that's the general thing. So you only have very few people, maybe in certain universities. At least I remember while I was writing my PhD thesis, I work presently at Redeemers University, and we had access to, I've forgotten the name of this, where we had access to Scopus materials in Elsevier and so on. But of course, that was even restricted because that database did, I think it was Hinari, yes, it was Hinari. But then I couldn't have access to journals in my area, in journals like, in publishing houses like De Gruyter and Cambridge and Oxford. And those are places, at least as an English person, where I would have most of my materials. So we have access to Elsevier and Sage, but we don't have access to De Gruyter. We didn't have access to Oxford, Cambridge, and so on. So for many people, depending on your location, depending on who you know, you might not have. So, but then there are still ways in which a student could still get around some of these things. Like I said, it's good to be a member, to join ResearchGate, for example. It is good not only because you can have access to research articles, you could also use that platform to connect with people who, you know, authors, different authors. And I remember that during my time, when I needed some materials in John Benjamin's, I had to write the authors of those papers, and they actually sent me their papers. So it depends on which area you are, what kind of network you're in, that would determine your access. But you can still go around some of these things. So there are certain publishing houses that you can go to directly to put in a set, you know, maybe you have the words that you need to extract certain, papers that are relevant to your work. So in some cases, if it's subscription based, you don't have access to the research article, you can go ahead and write the author. And in most cases, they would oblige you. And so we have so many open access journals. At the same time, we also have open access papers in many online journals. But of course, what is most important, again, is that you should save those materials using the appropriate titles. In some cases, you know, there are some journals, when you download them into your system, they make use of numbers, and you may not be able to, it may not be easy for you to recall some of those items. So it's usually appropriate to save those materials with, with names, or label them appropriately in a way that it's easy for you to recall them if you have any reason to do so. And of course, save them in appropriate folders and so on.
Sorry,
now
you
talking about minutes? All right, I think I should. Yeah. So systematic literature review, the review should be critical and not merely descriptive. So many students usually end up doing descriptive and just describe, but they should, literature review should be critical. You should search for gaps in the objectives, in the research questions, in the theory, in the data. You can look for gaps in these different places. You should ask, are there unanswered questions? These people looked at this, or what else did they, maybe there are some things they did not consider, and those things would help you to get your gap and your research problem. And the review, again, should be relevant and should be systematic. You shouldn't, if you are writing on sugar, you shouldn't be looking for materials on pineapple and apples. So they should be relevant items to the work. They should also be systematic. Systematic in the sense that, one, you need to review materials from the earliest. Like I said, I'm talking from, from someone from the humanities, and I know the way we do work. So I don't know how it is in the sciences. But like I said, usually you should start from the earliest to the latest. You know, sometimes you see some work, somebody review something 2019, then you jump to 2015, and then you move to 2010. That's not systematic. So you should start from the earliest, because there should be an improvement on previous work. So we should review from the earliest to the latest. And then you should search both within and outside Nigeria. Sometimes you see people review only works related to Nigeria or carried out by Nigerian authors. We should consider tech materials that are, being authored by scholars both within and outside Nigeria. And again, reviews should be in the last 5 years. There's no point going over reviewing a work that was written about maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, or using theories that are 20, 30 years ago. So as much as possible, like I tell my students, 75% of your work should come from the last 5 years. So because we expect that there should be some improvement, there should have been some improvement on a particular area or subject. And then to avoid plagiarism, literature consultants should be referenced inside the work and at the end of the work. So, talking about references. So it's important for references that sometimes, again, it depends. For some people, they would say, oh, we are dealing with bibliography, but for most research, for most journals, you deal with references and there's this other one, work cited. So in other words, if you're using the material, ensure that that material is cited both within and at the end of, the paper. And you should ensure that items that you did not make, you maybe at some point you used it, but then you removed it. Ensure that such items, are removed from the references. And again, a proper review should be done, like at the beginning of a work, which helps. A proper review done at the beginning of a work helps establish the contributions of a current work. And this is important, not just at the beginning, but at the end, because in the discussion section, you want to relate your findings to findings of previous research work. So in the discussion section of a paper, the author should establish if the research work confirms or refutes previous findings. So when you're writing your discussion, you shouldn't just write it and without making reference to previous materials. This again, of course establishes the significance of the study. So this is where I draw the curtain. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Ma, for a very good presentations. And we, on behalf of the NYA, we really thank you for your presentations. Now is the time for questions and answers. I'm happy that Professor Ayodeji has almost addressed most of the questions raised via the Q&E. But now we have two, mostly I think for Professor Inwi. Sir, are you available, sir?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
From Suleiman Bello, he said most of the times while using Mendeley, there are many errors in the automatic generation of the references in terms of the contents. How can someone ensure that the errors are minimal?
I think, like I mentioned, you check compatibility with the kind of softwares you have in your system. Possibly let the candidate, whoever that wants to use Mendeley, maybe go to YouTube, play YouTube on how to use Mendeley to check if there are issues. Okay, if you don't have the things compatible with some of the softwares that you may be using, you may be having these conflicting problems. Or better still, check other reference managers like Endnote, though you can subscribe and pay for such.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Okay. There is another one, although I can see Prof is, she's trying to address the question.
Okay.
Please, from Suleiman Gambo Lawal.
Okay.
He said, please, in case of references, Previously, we used to et al. For more than 2 authors, but now under APA style, mention names up to 4 authors. What's more than 4 authors isn't applicable to use the name of the first author, et al.
For instance, okay. Okay, maybe Professor Nabona, do you want to answer that?
Yes, I think maybe are you ready to address?
Well, maybe for me, I'm still I still want to understand what exactly the question is. I'm not, but then it's just, well, depending on if you're using Endnote or any of the reference managers, I think the reference manager should be able to do that appropriately for you. But if you are not using it, then it's better you also get acquainted with what you have in the current APA style. If APA style says that for up to 4, well, as of now, I am not sure of what the 7th edition is saying, and so we may need to consult that. I don't have, in fact, even when I have to do some of these things manually, if I'm not picking it up from Endnote, then I have to go and check what's, I have to check the manual itself and be sure whether I should use 4 and whether I should use a tool. But I know that for most of them, if it's at the end, if it's in the reference section, most of the time, if you're having up to 6, you can still cite all, write out all the names. But like I said, it's better we consult the manual itself, or you simply use Endnotes. Yeah.
Okay. So, Professor,
just
you have anything to add? Yeah.
Well, I think, like Professor Nabona has mentioned, it depends on the edition the person is referring to. Like there is 6th edition where you have to mention all the entire names. First time in the maybe your manuscript or your thesis, as the case may be. Subsequently, you use a tool. So there are different editions. So the candidate or whoever that is asking the question should look at the edition of the APA that you're using. Yes. Once you are accustomed to that, then you go ahead and use the one that is expected of you to use. So the edition is important because when you have like 4th edition, 6th edition, it differs. So when you talk about APA, there are different editions. I know about 6th edition. I'm just hearing there's a 7th edition. So they come with
the 7th edition.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Before we come back to the Q&A, I can see James Abolade is raising hands. Osegale, can you allow him to talk, maybe? James, unmute yourself. Hello, James. I think maybe he's off. Okay, I think let's come back to, there's another questions. I think this one is Professor Onobona from Olufemi Oladipo. Thank you so much, the last speaker on literature review. How can a researcher reduce the issue of plagiarism to the barest minimum in order to enhance the quality of the paper? Seriously, I will be glad. Maybe in our next edition, we are going to seriously deal with the plagiarism issue, but maybe you can answer some of these questions briefly, maybe.
Well, I guess the first thing is to ensure that every material that is used is referenced. That's the first thing. The second thing is to ensure that one actually reads a paper and then try to understand what the work is all about, and then write out the knowledge you have gained in your own words. That would help you. That would reduce a case of using all the words from a particular material. So apart from ensuring that you reference every material that is used, you should try to read the paper itself. Sometimes people just go copy and paste. And that's what most of our students do. You simply copy and paste. Most of the time, they do not read those research articles. They all simply, so avoid copying and pasting. Read the text. Now interpret what you have read in your own words, and as much as possible, use your own words to write your paper. That would reduce the issue of plagiarism to the barest minimum.
Thank you very much, Ma. I can see Paul Obi again is raising a hand. Paul? Mr. Paul, can you ask your question now? I think they usually raise hands and just leave. We have Professor Ilyasu Yusuf G.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
you can ask
good
your
evening.
questions. Thank you.
I want to commend you and the presenters for a job well done.
Thank you, sir.
And I equally want to request that subsequent edition, we should zero in on picking a particular reference manager and teach our students how to use it. We can take these reference managers one at a time.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
My institution. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Paul, are you back? So I think we don't have any available question now, but Professor Ayodeji, can I just ask one question, sir?
Yes, go ahead.
There is this cleanup. Maybe where you have the data to remove the outliers. At this point, a lot of students used to mess up with the results. So what advice can you give them at this point?
If I got your question very correctly, your question is about cleaning up. How do you clean up without what?
Altering the data.
Well, now, how do you clean up without altering the data?
Yes, like the outliers, when
yes. The very first thing is that you must be involved in the data acquisition, in the design of the instruments. For example, if you are from the sciences, the engineering, you must be involved in the problem design, the modeling, and then the gathering of data. So what that simply means is that you must have an idea of what to expect. Because if you don't know, if you are not informed, then you are likely going to destroy the data rather than clean up. You don't even know what to clean.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is that whoever is attempting to clean should ask he or herself, do I know what exactly this data is? Do I have an idea of what to expect? That's when you can identify what outliers are. Okay. And again, there are tools for doing cleanups. For example, if you have a set of data and you have an idea of the mean or variance of the data, that may give you an idea that this data is an outlier. And let me tell you, when in a science and let's say in engineering, let me focus more in engineering. If it's an engineering research or an experiment and you find outliers, I would suggest you go back to the study, reset up the experiment, and acquire new set of data. I'll give you an example, an experience I had during my PhD. I did not rely on a single instance of data. So one thing I did to ensure that I clean up my data is that I ran several instances, at least 5, and then compute the mean at certain confidence interval, 95% for engineering, if you're in life sciences, 99 point something. And then there are also some tools, mean likelihood, maximum likelihood, minimum likelihood. All of these tools will guide you to ensure that your data is not over cleaned or is under cleaned. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we're maybe running almost out of the time, but can we quickly, we have 2 questions that are now from Omolabake Okun Akan. What is the difference between systematic review and literature review in publication? Because the 2 is sometimes mixed by Nigerian reviewers. This question, I think, is yours.
Moderator, I would like to add 1 or 2 words to that after the Professor Onabuna.
Okay, this question, sir?
After Professor Onabuna, I may want to, if I have the opportunity, I may want to.
Okay, sir. Professor Onabuna? So maybe you can quickly make the point before she will come back, maybe.
Omolabake, and I want you to know that you have asked a very good question. There's a difference between systematic review
and critical
and literature review, or let me say better still, literature review has variants or methodologies or approaches. Systematic review is a form of literature review. There are other forms: critical, scoping, meta-analysis, narratives, and quite a number of them. So systematic review is one and is the most critical. It usually takes about maybe 9 months to 1 year. And usually there is a protocol that must be adhered to. Before systematic review is conducted, there is also what is known as systematic literature searching, wherein you mention things like inclusion and exclusion criteria. You move on, and then you do analysis, synthesization. Maybe moderator, you may want to dedicate a whole session like this to literature review, systematic review, because it's very involving. The question she has asked. Hello?
Sir.
Yeah, sorry, can I just tip it just a minute?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, just to also support what Prof said. Actually, the NY has already organized a webinar on systematic review. And
okay, that's fine.
Yes, I will request the participants to kindly visit the YouTube channel of this, and that is a very fantastic systematic review webinar we had last year by an American scientist and also a Nigerian scientist. I will request the participants to just go there. They will learn a lot, I'm sure. Thank you.
My president, thank you very much. That seals it.
Yeah. Dr. Onabona, are you going to add anything?
Sorry, no, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we spent almost 90 minutes, and I think we don't have any questions to entertain. At this point, I think I would like to call the chair of this.
Oh, I thought I'll be able to say something. Sorry.
Okay, ma.
Okay, I am Omolabake Okunakan.
Okay, you are on. Okay, Omolabake. Yeah. Okay.
The hand is up. From Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria. What actually brought that question was, I recently sent an abstract to an online conference recently, and after it was reviewed, and returned back to me, made my corrections. It was actually a review, not a systematic review now. So they sent it back telling me that I should indicate the protocol and the search tool and all that. And I was like, this is not a systematic review. If it is a systematic review, it will be indicated on the topic that this is a systematic review, not just a review. The reason why I'm asking why the Nigerian reviewers doesn't know the difference between a systematic review and just a review. Thank you.
Well, I don't know why you generalize, but Prof. Dr. Onobuna. Prof, we are okay. Dr. Onobuna, are you on?
Well, I would maybe I'm sorry, but maybe because of where I'm coming from, I may not be able to. But I know that. Well, I know that you have the literature review, and I know that in some cases you might be dealing with what's it called? Maybe a review article now, and in such cases, I think I should not answer this question. Maybe it's something that is more applicable to those in the sciences. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I shouldn't answer it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Among the profs, I don't know if any.
Moderator, what exactly do you want to answer? The chairman has answered the question that sometimes last year there's a very, very good
it's all right.
in the library she can refer to.
Yeah, I can see someone. I think if you can check the YouTube, I think
the library.
The address is there. I can see someone is trying to ask for the link. So, sir, I think I will, at this point, I would like to refer to Akintayo Ogundayo for the, I think, closing remarks, sir.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Aminu. I want to thank our panelists for doing justice to the different topics assigned to them. No, these topics are very important to us as academics because the currency that we spend in academics is publication. And there's this popular saying that it's either you publish or you perish. Therefore, this listed topic, the concept of data analysis, the use of reference managers, and how to conduct a systematic search cannot be overemphasized. Because after we have done carry out research in the lab, write review, we convey it to the outside world through publications, and these are the important concepts that can lead to a quality publication. So, and we are so happy that our panelists, they really did a justice to that topic. It is so insightful, and I know that the participants, they've learned one thing or the other that they will take back home that will be useful to them in their research, publication, in analyzing their data, in writing references. But this issue of reference managers, when we were still doing PhD, it was a big issue. In fact, especially when you have a large number of references, like me in chemistry now, I have a lot of references to arrange. And now all these reference managers were just coming up then when we're having our PhD. So we have to struggle to learn it. But now, for our younger ones, for the upcoming one, is at your doorstep. Please take advantage of what you have learned today, so that in the near future, we'll be able to see you and be proud of you as a scientist that is top notch. Thank you so much, Professor Luatope. Really appreciate you. Thank you for honoring our invitations. And
thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. we know that any time we call you, you will still answer us. Professor
I'll be glad to.
Thank you so much.
Sir. Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir. Professor Inwi, thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you for doing justice to that topic, reference manager. And my sister, really appreciate you, man. God bless you, man. Thank you for taking us through, the rudiment of systematic literature search. You really did justice to that, and we have learned a lot from your wealth of experience. Thank you so much. I also want to thank the TTYP committee member. That's the committee that has put this together, starting from my powerful moderator, person of Dr. Aminu Mohammed. Thank you so much. We're going to recommend you to BBC or maybe is it Al Jazeera?
Yeah, you're so funny.
To them. Thank you so much, sir, for that beautiful and beautiful moderation. God bless you, sir. I want to thank other members, our able secretary, Dr. Rotimi, Dr. Betokun, and Dr. Obi. Thank you so much for the sacrifices, various meetings, and thank you so much. God bless you all. I also want to thank the executive on NYA under the leadership of Dr. Howard Mohammed. Thank you for giving us this platform to present this beautiful idea to the upcoming scientists. I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve the academy. So to our participants, please make good use of what you have learned today. And I know it's going to improve you in the area of research and every other endeavor. Thank you so much. And as you know, this is the third edition. So the fourth edition will soon be coming. So as will be coming your way in the next edition, we want to say thank you for coming. God bless you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
sir.